Hey everyone, so today we're going to tackle a question that has honestly puzzled people for decades. How is it that Japan, a massive global power, doesn't have a comprehensive law against espionage? We're going to dive into this story, and believe me, it's a lot more complex and frankly more dramatic than you might think.
You hear this phrase a lot when people talk about Japan's national security, a spy heaven. It's a pretty intense label, right? It makes it sound like the country is just wide open for foreign intelligence operations. But is that actually fair? And if it is, how on earth did things get to this point?
And that's really the central mystery we're exploring today. You've got this nation that's a total powerhouse in technology, in economics, in global diplomacy, and yet this one really fundamental piece of security legislation is just missing. It feels like a glaring oversight. To figure out why, we've got to look at history, politics, and a national debate that runs very, very deep. Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll kick things off by digging into that whole spy heaven idea. Then we'll travel back in time to see why past bills just vanished into thin air. After that, we'll look at the laws that exist now and what people call the gap. Then we'll cover what's being debated today, and finally, the big challenge that's still ahead. So, first things first, this is not a new conversation, not by a long shot. In fact, the most dramatic fight over an anti-spy law actually went down almost 40 years ago. And the way it failed, well, it's basically cast a long shadow over every single discussion on this topic ever since.
So back in the 1980s, there was this huge surge of momentum. It all kicked off when a KGB major named Stanislav Levchenko defected and just laid bare these vast Soviet spy networks operating in Japan. The public was fired up. By 1985, you had over 1,500 local governments passing resolutions demanding a law. So the ruling party, the LDP, finally submits a bill, but it gets killed by a backroom political deal. A year later, they try again with a revised bill, and this time it gets so close. It makes it all the way to the LDP's final internal approval meeting, literally one step from the finish line.
And this is where the story just gets wild. It's almost like a scene out of a political thriller. According to people who were there, right as the final approval was about to happen, two lawmakers who weren't even on the committee just burst into the room. They were from a rival faction and started shouting that the bill was vague and problematic. And get this, the chairman of the meeting, he was the head of their faction. He just immediately sided with them, didn't even call for a vote, and sent the bill back for review. Just like that, poof. Years of work and massive public support all derailed in a matter of minutes. So yeah, that attempt failed spectacularly, and its collapse left a really long-lasting mark. So let's fast forward to today. After decades of pressure from allies, Japan has put some new protections in place. But the big question is, are they really enough? First up, there's the 2013 Specified Secret Protection Act. Now, the key thing to understand here is its focus. This law is primarily about punishing government officials who leak secrets. It was a crucial step for sure, especially to reassure allies that Japan could handle sensitive intel, but its scope was designed to be pretty narrow. And then, just this year in 2024, Japan introduced a new security clearance system. This basically extends background checks beyond just government officials to people working in the private sector who might handle sensitive economic or tech info. But again, notice the theme. This is about vetting people before they access information, not about punishing the act of espionage itself. So, with these two laws on the books, you might be thinking, okay, Japan's covered now, right? Well, not exactly. Experts will tell you there's still a critical, and some would say enormous, legal gap that remains wide open. And here is that gap. Under current Japanese law, the act of spying itself, the intelligence gathering activity, is not a crime. Let that sink in. You can prosecute a government official for leaking a secret, but you can't prosecute the foreign spy who was trying to get them to leak it, or who was probing for weaknesses or recruiting agents, unless they commit some other crime, like theft or trespassing. The actual act of espionage, before a secret is ever lost, pretty much falls into a legal gray zone. Which brings us right to the current debate. Policymakers and experts all recognize this gap exists, but there are some fierce disagreement on how to close it. So let's look at the three main proposals on the table right now. Okay, option one is kind of the surgical approach. Just amend the existing secrets law to add a new crime for intelligence gathering. Option 2 is the big one. Create a brand new, comprehensive anti-spy law that would cover the whole shebang, from stealing secrets to foreign propaganda and influence operations. And then option 3 is a totally different tool, modeled on something the US has called FARA. This would focus on transparency, forcing anyone working in influence policy for a foreign power to register publicly.
And this slide really gets to the heart of the dilemma. Proponents argue a law is absolutely essential to protect state secrets and vital tech, to deter foreign spies, and maybe even give Japan some leverage to free its own citizens who were detained overseas. But the opponents have these really deep-seated fears. They worry that a vaguely worded law could be abused to silence government critics, restrict the press, and undermine the public's right to know. And the memory of how that 1986 bill was so chaotically derailed, that's created a lasting distrust that's still a huge factor today.
So, as you can probably tell, this isn't just a simple legislative problem. It goes much deeper, touching on Japan's history and its vision for what kind of country it wants to be.
Ultimately, the challenge here is to somehow reconcile two incredibly powerful forces. On one side, you have the very real threats of the 21st century: economic espionage, cyber attacks, sophisticated influence campaigns. But on the other, you have the historical scars of pre-war authoritarianism and this profound societal fear of unchecked government power. Finding a law that can address the first without triggering the second is the tightrope Japan has been trying to walk for decades.
And that leaves us with the final question, really. In a world of constantly evolving threats, how does a nation protect itself without compromising the very freedoms that define it? For Japan, the search for that perfect balance continues. Thanks for watching.